Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to discuss the game Doom: The Dark Ages. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, I'm going to dive right in. I want to make it clear that this is not a review of the Dark Ages. I don't think that's entirely fair. I mostly just want to give some impressions about how I felt about the game, which is to say that I'm coming at this from a place where I played Doom when it first came out. It was super fun, and I became obsessed to the point where we were swapping out sounds so that the demons would make metal guy screams and people would say different things when you saw them. It was really crazy what you could do back in the old days with Doom. And throughout the ages, I played Doom 1, 2, and 3. It was fun back then. The more recent incarnations of the game have been far too chaotic for me. They're just like complete madness where you're just running nonstop and there's a lot of flash and stuff going on. And in one respect, that really does capture what I think they intended back when we were playing the original game, right around the time of Wolfenstein 3D. But that said, it is kind of a nostalgia feel. And once you can embrace that, I think the game's a lot more fun. If you're trying to judge it on purely modern standards of what has become first-person shooters, it's probably a little bit harder of a sell all around. But for my money, I think the Dark Ages is actually pretty fun. So my initial impression of the game was, whoa, this is kind of just unnecessary, and I felt that it was fairly mediocre. I took a step back and I kind of reevaluated what I was going at the game for. What were they trying to achieve? And when I kind of let go of preconceived notions about things like, I don't know, Call of Duty or Destiny or whatever other games you can think of that are first-person shooters and roughly modern by standards today, I was able to really embrace what they were doing here. I mean, this is just a crazy, throw it all to the wind, go at it and blow stuff up and have a good time kind of game. It's not deep art. It's not trying to reinvent any wheels here. There are a few new sort of features like the shield and the various things that it can do. But ultimately, you're not going in this for like some hardcore tactical shooter. There's no cover. There's no hiding. In fact, the lower your health is, the more aggressive you have to play in order to get more health so that you can survive whatever you're doing. But it's not like the most punishing game either when it comes to dying. There are multiple ways to mitigate the time lost in that respect. And the levels aren't insanely long. I think that 30 minutes is roughly what I had been playing per level. And I went back and played them a couple of times in order to try and find some of the secrets and do a little bit more of the exploration. Though that is a point that I have to kind of criticize. For a game that you pretty much are just charging forward and just slaughtering stuff, taking a moment to smell the roses does seem a little bit strange. Not like lame. I enjoyed kind of wandering around the levels and looking for stuff a little bit, but it also doesn't really feel like it's part of the theme. And in many respects, this game really does want you to move forward and butcher stuff. Now, it could be said that you're expected to go back and play those levels after you finish them. You know, play it in the quote-unquote intended method of just butchering demons, and then reload the level and go try to find the codices and the toys and whatever else there is. I think there's some skins too. All around, they do want you to experience the game multiple times, I'm pretty sure, because I don't think it's going to be all that long with 22 levels available, and unless they become exponentially longer, which I'm not entirely sure they will, you probably would finish it pretty quick and then be done. All around though, I mean, I'm not like gagging for this kind of gameplay myself, and yet despite that, I have to say I've had a lot of fun with it. So while I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details to try and convince you through a review to either buy it or don't buy it, I will say this, just from the perspective that my go-to first-person shooter gaming usually is something like Destiny 2, I had a lot of fun with this as an alternative. The weapons are very interesting. I love the fact that Doom is like, you won't be reloading. Yeah, you'll run out of ammo, but you don't have to pause and reload. In fact, that caused me some grief because I would kill a couple of demons and I'd hit the R button to reload and I'd end up throwing my shield. And that said, you do have the experience where maybe playing other games does hamper your ability to succeed at this one at first. Some of the big demons are pretty cool to fight, and they're really neat looking. They have some mechanics, but ultimately in this kind of game, when you're running wild, mechanics are a little bit hard to pay attention to. It can even be difficult to pick your weapon intentionally. Sometimes in a big fight, I'd accidentally hit the Q key and end up using a gun that I wasn't really expecting, but it generally works out. There are a lot of different ways to get your health back, to get armor back. They provide you with plenty of tools to just go crazy in this game, and I think that's pretty fun. As far as the story is concerned, there was an unexpected amount of exposition at the start of the game, especially for something that you pretty much just plow forward like a tank and blast stuff until it stops moving. It seemed interesting. I will say this, I have no idea where all this came from. I don't know if this was in the previous game or they alluded to it. I didn't play those extensively enough to know if they've set this up. I know there's some humans, there's some weird alien dudes, there's a bunch of guys from hell and demons, there's spaceships, but people look like they're dressed like Spartans. I have no clue what's going on as far as that's concerned. They did a pretty good job of setting up the story for the most part, but I still kind of feel like I don't really know the world per se. I know your character is basically conditioned to just hate demons and go out and kill them wholesale, and that you are preventing someone from ruling hell. If this sounds remotely confusing, then that's how I feel about it. And maybe you'll pay better attention to the exposition and the story and get into it. For me, it's Doom. You're running around blasting stuff. The story is nice. It's cool that they added one so that there is some substance there. But ultimately, I don't really think it's necessary. They could have just as easily started you out like the original Doom game, where you just like walk into a room and just start shooting demons. They didn't even have codices then to tell you what's happening. All you knew is that on Mars, demons are here and they're doing terrible things. It was simple as going and finding key cards to open doors and move through the map as fast as you could. And speaking of which, those things are back, the keys and that kind of stuff. So you will be hunting for those to get through certain doors. And there's things that you could just blow up. Whether you shield charge through it or throw your shield through it, you've got options. And I think that's also really cool. Right now, the game is sitting at a 2.8 star rating on the Xbox app, and I see that most of the complaints are bugs. I haven't personally experienced any, but I do have a very high-end computer, and that might be part of it. Maybe if you're still in the 3000 series of video card, maybe that's part of the problem. I did see a few of those mentioned. A few people did call it mediocre and boring. I mean, I can't fault them that. It is not the most complicated game. And if you're looking for something really complicated, then I could see you probably being disappointed. I don't know how much it's like the other Doom games. So if you do and you've played those, then let me know. Is this way off base? Did they drop the ball in this game? I didn't have high expectations. I barely knew it was coming out, and then I saw it on Game Pass and I thought to give it a try. That's why I wanted to talk about my impressions. As somebody who is kind of stepped back from the Doom game series itself, I thought that I could bring at least a slightly different perspective as to, feelings about the game. And really, that's all it comes down to, is how I felt about it. I don't necessarily think that I could give you a fair assessment of value for the game, because I don't really know that I'm going to get much further than the third or fourth chapter before this level of mayhem just wears on me. I'm kind of a wuss in that regard. And yet, to say that, I have to admit, I think the game was fun. And if I could tolerate that level of chaos, I might be able to finish it. But I know myself, and I know that by the time I would get back to it, something else will come out and distract me. So I probably won't finish Doom the Dark Ages. Now, all that said, I should also point out that I didn't pay any money for this. I already have Xbox Game Pass, so it was basically included. And if I had spent money, and I suspect that's where some of the negative reviews come from, because this game isn't cheap. It's a normal $70 game, and they wanted $100 if you wanted to play early. So I could see if you paid that amount of money, you might be a little mad and you might feel like you wasted your cash. If that's the case, I'd also love to know, if you spent money, do you feel like it should have been better? Do you have higher expectations for this particular title? Or is it meeting those expectations? Let me know in the comments, and I'd love to talk about it. But I think that's about all I've got to say about Doom the Dark Ages. All around, if you have Game Pass, there's absolutely no reason not to give it a try. If you have to spend money on it, I kind of feel like you might want to wait for a sale, or give them the money for Game Pass to try it out, and if you love it, then go ahead and buy it. You can get a discount while you have Game Pass, so it would probably be worth it at that point. But at least then you wouldn't be out any cash. So basically, if you're on the fence, find a cheap way to play it and give it a shot, and then you'll know one way or another. This doesn't really scream a title that's going to carry you through the summer, in my opinion, but it could definitely get you through the rest of May if you really did find it exciting. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks very much for stopping by. This is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.